Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is PramoDITA Sharma, and I'm a faculty member at the Grossman School of Business. I'm delighted to be hosting our fourth Family Business Sustainability Forum. These forums are free-flowing conversations with family business leaders who have embedded sustainability principles into their business operations. It's a conversation rather than an interview. I'll start with a few structured questions, and our audience are welcome to enter their questions in Q&A. Our MBA students, Janisha Sharma and Taylor Smith, are here to assist me with this, and they're going to consolidate the questions and let me know about them. I will integrate them into the conversation. Our first three sustainability forums featured family companies from US, UK, and Netherlands. Today, we go to India as we introduce Thermax Limited of India, a publicly listed third-generation company based in Pune in India. Thermax has 14 manufacturing facilities across Asia and Europe. It's an engineering manufacturing company focused on providing environmental solutions of clean air, water, and energy. With 4,500 employees, the annual revenue of Thermax exceeds 800 million a year. With me today, our second-generation family member, Anu Aga, who served as the chairperson of Thermax from 1996 to 2004. Anu retired from the board of Thermax in 2017. But when she joined under unexpected difficult circumstances, she not only restructured the company's portfolio, but also refocused it to separate ownership and management. Gutsy moves for a social worker trained in medical and psychiatric social work. With a master's degree in social work, she institutionalized the 1% profits for CSR initiatives long before this concept was talked about in global circles. Post-retirement, Anu has focused on serving the underprivileged students' education in India. Anu was a member of the upper house of Indian Parliament for 6 years. That would be similar to the Senate in US. A recipient of the fourth highest civilian award in the country, Anu Aga is a Padma Shri Award winner. I feel like being in company of royalty with grounded eyes and warm heart. Anu's daughter, Meher, is a third-generation family member and a chairperson since 2004. With a master's degree in chemical engineering from Imperial College in UK, she joined as an engineering graduate trainee in 1990. Meher has worked in various roles in the company, including leading a subsidiary in England. Meher has championed the green initiatives, including solar power, waste to energy, platinum-rated green factory, supplying green steam-generated biomass, and so on and so forth. We learn about a lot more about her initiatives as we go into the conversation. Both Anu and Meher serve on the boards of NGOs focused on climate change and education. Here's a fun fact about Meher. She enjoys Western classical music and her weekly rendezvous with the chamber singers choir and practicing Bach, Brahms, Schubert, and so on. And our third panelist today is Professor Kavil Ramachandran, one of the founders of Indian School of Business, a top-ranked school in the country. He's the founding director of Thomas Schmid-Heine Center for Family Enterprises. Although he just stepped down as an executive from the executive director's role, he continues as the soul of that center with which I am affiliated. A preeminent thinker and advisor of family enterprise continuity and governance in the country. And Ram is an academic entrepreneur who built the Master of Family Enterprise program at ISP. 2022 has been a year of lifelong recognitions for Ram. Just recently, about a couple of days ago, he was featured in the top 100 family business influencers in the world and a top management teacher in India. And with that, we'll start with a little profile video of Thermax so you can see the breadth and scope of the company. It's about 5 minutes and we'll roll it now. And then we'll come on with focus on the conversation.
Thermax, conserving resources, preserving the future. Founded in 1966 as Watson India in Pune, manufacturing small coiled packaged boilers, Thermax has grown into an engineering major today, offering a wide range of energy-efficient and eco-friendly solutions. Our vision is to be a globally respected high-performance organization offering sustainable solutions in energy and environment. The core business areas of Thermax include large boilers and fired heaters for steam generation and solutions for process and power needs. On offer are solid fuel, agro waste, biomass-fired boilers up to 1,000 tons per hour, waste-to-energy solutions and oil and gas-fired boilers. The process heating business comprises packaged boilers, thermal oil heaters, heat recovery boilers and hot water generators. The cooling business provides industrial as well as commercial cooling by making use of energy-efficient vapor absorption chillers and process cooling products. Thermax's Power EPC business offers captive power plants and cogeneration systems on a turnkey basis, including solar photovoltaic and solar thermal solutions. We provide air pollution control systems for both particulate and gaseous emissions to a wide range of industries. The water and waste solutions support industrial and commercial establishments to treat water for their process requirements and clean sewage and treat effluents. Thermax's chemicals business manufactures and markets a wide range of specialty chemicals to help improve processes and product performance for a spectrum of industries. Thermax has built an array of services to ensure reliable support and maximize value for its customers. Thermax also offers the option of outsourced utilities through its build, own, operate model. Over the past 5 decades, Thermax has strategically spread its operations to markets across the world, spanning over 86 countries across Asia, the Middle East, the CIS countries, Europe, Africa, the USA, and South America. Today, we have a sales and service network around the world, and we operate through domestic and international subsidiaries. Thermax's operations are supported by state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities, including India, Poland, Indonesia, Denmark, and Germany. The company has a robust and innovative R&D setup involved in technology development and adaptation for various applications. The company has also formed technology partnerships with global majors and focused on growth through strategic acquisitions. Thermax adopts a partnering relationship with clients to address their energy and environmental challenges and enhance their performance and profits. It has the expertise to support clients at any phase of their business cycles, planning and setting up facilities, upgrading technologies, revamping existing facilities, troubleshooting and problem solving, and or training technical staff on new technologies. This makes Thermax a preferred partner of enterprises across sectors. Our values of respect, commitment, honesty and integrity, and concern for society and the environment form the cornerstone of our existence and runs at the core of everything we do. Inspired by the conviction that business cannot succeed in a society that fails, Thermax has been focusing on serving the communities primarily in the field of education. Thermax believes in the power of people and nurtures a human organization which understands the paradox that the whole organization is more important than the individual. But this does not make the individual less important. Thermax, conserving resources, preserving the future.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Gives us a quick profile of Thermax. Meher, Anu, Ram, thanks for joining us today and sparing part of your evening for us. Meher, may I start with you, please? Can you share the role of your family in the evolution of Thermax?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much, PramoDITA, for inviting us here today. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm going to actually start by my grandfather's letter, and I won't read out the whole letter. I'll just read bits and pieces that mean something special to me. And this is a letter that he wrote to all the new people that were joining the company in the 60s. Okay, so he starts with "Dear friends," and then he goes on to say, people who are earnest, competent, mature, sensitive to their surroundings, pleasant and positive in their attitude towards life, with a capacity to laugh at themselves. This is the kind of person that he wants for Thermax. Then he goes on to say, this being a human enterprise and therefore fragile, we would like to handle it with great care. We generally trust people and like to be trusted. Then he says, we like to work in freedom, in the belief that you would enjoy doing your work in such an atmosphere and would like to be trusted with responsibilities. And then a little below, he goes on to say, we want everyone to turn into a warrior to have a ceaseless fight against poverty, disease, communalism, despondency, and indolence all around us. And then lastly, he goes on to say, help us remain students all our lives. Quality of life is what we are seeking. Simplicity and moderation in all walks of life is what we cherish. Try to be yourself at all times. So, I think if I got a letter like that, I would really think about, wow, this is a different organization. And I truly believe he evolved it. And it's almost the cornerstone of building the culture and the values. This letter sets that tone. And I'd also like to go to, you saw in the film, my dad at the end saying profit is not just a set of figures, but of values, something he truly believed and practiced in the organization. And mom's influence again, through the film in many ways, but saying that business cannot succeed in a society that fails. So I think a lot of influence from various people to really build this enterprise. And I won't go into too many details, but just for the audience's sake, we started as a boiler company. And then boilers require clean water. So that's how we went into water treatment. Water treatment requires something called ion exchange resins. So that's how we went into the chemical business. Boilers pollute. And so we said, if we're going to pollute, we had better clean up. And so that's how we got into the air pollution control business. Boilers give out something called waste heat. So we said, how can we use this waste heat to convert it into something that is beneficial? So we found a technology in Japan, which uses waste heat to produce cooling. And then if you take all of this together and put it together and just buy a turbine, then you produce a power plant. So we got into EPC and power. So that's how we went sort of organically, one step at a time, from the little known to the little unknown. My father I like to see him almost as a venture capitalist, or almost like an angel investor. So neither my grandfather, my father, nor my mother were engineers. And yet they all built a very successful engineering company. And my father was like, as I say, an angel investor. So if someone thought of an idea and they brought it to him, he would find out a little more about it, ask the person to find out more. And if he thought it was a good idea, he would invest in it. And that's how Thermax really grew as an entrepreneurial company. And I think our purpose has remained the same from the very beginning. It started as conserving energy, preserving the environment, but then of course we are also into water. So we recently changed it to conserving resources, preserving the future. And something that we've always believed in is, as a family, is that we are here for all our stakeholders. The shareholder is one of many stakeholders, and we truly believe that. In fact, even though we're a listed company, I don't think any of us look at our share price. We believe that the share price is an outcome of what we do. So if we focus on doing what's right for the customer, what's right for various other stakeholders, the share price will follow. My husband joined the business almost at the same time that I did, and is I call him my partner in crime. So he's really somebody that, we lots like a sounding board, and so a lot of decisions taken together. I don't want to say too much about Anu because she'll speak about how she came into the business over very, very difficult circumstances and how she made a phenomenal success of it. And I think last but not least, my own role in the last 15 years has been, I would say I'm somebody who genuinely believes in sustainability and green. So we've sort of more or less moved the organization. So about 10 years ago, we were 40% of our turnover was from green products. Today, 70% is from green. At one time, I think half our turnover probably in the energy segment, or more than half, came from coal many years ago. Today, it's less than 15%. So I think just growing that, being passionate about it, trying to inspire our own people, I think has been really my role within the organization. And lastly, our kids have just joined Thermax, one 2 years ago, and the second one 6 months ago. So maybe I'll stop there.
Thank you. Professor Ram has published a case on Thermax in our book, Pioneering Family Firms. And I go back to your grandfather's letter, because that's a cornerstone, not just for Thermax, but any organization, I think, that wants to stay grounded and focused. Anu, may I please welcome you again and request you to please describe the challenging circumstances under which you took over as the chairperson of Thermax.
Sure. Thanks, PramoDITA. As you introduced me, I'm a social worker by profession, but destiny took me to the corporate world. My husband had a sudden heart attack at the age of 60. And at that time, I was in the HR division of our company. For 5 years, I worked under a wonderful boss who helped me to grow. And next 5 years, I took over as the head. And at the age of 60, he suddenly had a heart attack and died. And a year earlier, we had gone public. So the board on the second day said, you have to be the executive chairperson. And I wasn't at all ready to assume this responsibility. I was grieving for my husband. I'm not an engineer, not at all interested in technology or finance. And how could I lead a technological company? But I think my HR background has helped me in the sense I knew my people extremely well, and they were very keen that I succeed. A year after I took over, the Indian economy went through a downturn, and our shares, which were 400, came down to about 36. And I realized that we need to do something dramatic. And we brought in Boston Consulting Group to help us turn around. And we had to take many, many tough decisions. We had to divest out of many non-core businesses, which added to our top line, but eroded our bottom line. That means asking people to leave, something my husband and I said that in a country where there is no social net, security net, except for being dishonest, we will not ask people to leave and train them, invest in people who are not performing, but we didn't ask people to leave. But now asking hundreds to leave the company, which was very, very painful. We also decided to reconstitute the entire board. The earlier board had 9 executives and 4 outsiders. When things are going well, it's okay to have such a board. But when things are not going well, to sit on the board and very objectively evaluate your own performance and say, I haven't done well, is very difficult. So we decided, and that was more true for Meher and Firoz also, my daughter and son-in-law, that they remain in management or become on the board. They were used to being on both these places, and they couldn't understand why this tough decision was given. But today, they think it's one of the best decisions, and they decided to be on the board. I think I'd just like to say one thing. 14 months after my husband passed away, my 25-year-old son died in a car accident. And what has helped me, which I want the audience to know, is my meditation, a Buddhist meditation program called Vipassana, where you don't talk and you go deep within yourself. And I found so many answers to all the problems I was facing. I realized I didn't have to keep comparing myself with my husband. In fact, all that was expected from me was to give out my best. And I came back energetic, and I've learned to deal with death and difficult circumstances. So the young people who are listening, please don't postpone the investment in yourself till you retire. Do it now in some small way. Thank you.
You are an inspiration, Anu. Since I first spoke with you, I have looked at the Vipassana programs, and I'm delighted that they're all around the world. I go back to your example in my own heart so many times and draw energy from you. So thank you so much for not only stepping up to lead your company, but making some of the very, very difficult decisions to turn it around, and including difficult decisions for your own family. It's absolutely incredible what you have been able to accomplish. And Ram, from your vantage point at the Thomas Schmidt Heine Center, you're able to see the practices of Indian business families and you've seen them over decades. What changes have you observed when it comes to their thinking about sustainability?
Thank you, PramoDITA, for inviting and also for including our case in your wonderful book. And for me, with my co-authors, it was a great experience of writing this case on Thermax. Because as an academic in my earlier days at the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, I used to teach a case on the earlier version of Thermax, and the letter that Meher talked about is part of the case. And I grew up learning about the importance of values in building organization to institutions. And institutions are there for sustainability. And I believe that Thermax is a great example of this. And when you listen to Anu and Meher, you feel that they live those values. You recognize the importance of those values. And that's what is required in all organizations. And what you find out in India is that there is a massive change happening. There is a huge recognition of the need for addressing the sustainability issues at different levels, because we are still a developing country, emerging market, whatever term we use, it's still not a rich country in that economic sense. So there are disparities across the society, different kinds of businesses are there. There is a lot of transformation required, a lot of awareness creation required. So both the corporates, academics, as well as industry associations, for instance, Meher is closely associated with the Confederation of Indian Industry. So they are all deeply involved in this dialogue and in terms of building this kind of an awareness. So it's when you talk about sustainability, there are different terms used, but these are all different phases. So I'll just pick up a couple of these terms. So see, sustainability is a very, very broad term, which is sustain the universe, sustain the earth, sustain the environment, sustain the humanity, sustain education, sustain health. Every part can be included as part of the sustainability program. And then if you look at the corporates, we have what is called the CSR, corporate social responsibility initiatives. And there you find a lot more focused strategic initiatives by many organizations, many companies, business organizations. And in 2013, the Indian Companies Act was amended to make it mandatory for all organizations, all companies. I would say, I won't get into the numbers. What it means is that all mid-size organizations with reasonable profit has to spend at least 2% of their average profit over the past three years on corporate social responsibility initiatives. And we had, I mean, at the center, we had looked at this phenomenon, the impact of these changes. And so some of the interesting things, without getting into the details, one is that we found that multi-generational family businesses have been doing a lot of these things. And Anu started doing this social initiatives within the corporation even much before anybody asked the organization to do so. So we have multi-generational family businesses. I mean, if you take the Tata Group or the Murugappa Group or the Godrej Group, which are some of the largest conglomerate, they have been devoting more than 2% of their net profit for philanthropic activities. Yeah, that takes me to another term called philanthropy. Philanthropy is different from CSR. CSR is much more focused, and philanthropy can be broader. It is for the benefit of others. And any activity and empowering, enriching. So that is the essence of philanthropic initiatives. And recently we have another term called the ESG, environmental, social, and governance initiatives. So in order to make corporations accountable, like the CSR requirement of the government to spend 2% of your profit, increasingly there is an accounting of the environmental, social, and governance practices of companies. So that is another way measurement is made. But at the underlying level, what we find is the stewardship value. Sustainability is possible only if the stakeholders, Meher talked about the stakeholders, it's not the shareholders, all the stakeholders benefit, which means that the entire environment, entire society is sustained. So that is what is required. And what we find is that there is a great dialogue happening. We haven't reached anywhere, and I would say that we are doing a lot. Academics, including our center, are doing a lot of it, and the boards have a huge role to play. Corporate boards have to feel the responsibility, take the responsibility, and governance has to be much beyond the shareholders in the conventionals to take care of the stakeholders. And I mean, I can go on and on, but let me stop here.
Thank you. Thank you. It is interesting. Thank you for helping with clarify the different terminology that gets thrown around with this very broad construct of sustainability. We have a related question for Meher and Anu, and is about sustainability is an emotional topic, but you've been successful in integrating it into your business functions, into your core functions. What kind of challenges did you face? Can you give an example of two of challenges that you faced, whether at the governance level or in operations, as you embed sustainability principles in your company?
Sure, maybe I can go to that. I'll give you an example. About 10, 12 years ago, we sell capital goods, right, as Thermax. And about 12 years ago, we decided that we also want to start a company that sells services, which means instead of selling a boiler, we sell steam. Or instead of selling a water treatment plant, we sell water. So it's a build, own, operate. So we put in our own money to put up the plant in the customer's premises, and then we sell the product as a service. So we wanted to start a company that sold steam. And it came to the board, and I remember very clearly that many of the board members felt that that company could sell steam based on coal, or based on oil, or based on biomass, whichever fuel, doesn't matter. Let it be fuel agnostic, but let's sell the service. And I was very, very clear in my mind that this is going to be a green company. And even if it means that we will sell little less, we will do a little less business, we may have a little less return on investment, but I think it's a responsibility that we need to have towards our environment. And so I remember a lot of conversations at the board, but in the end, I'm really happy to say that we stuck around. But let me also say 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, till even 3 years ago, people kept saying, let us just send one order with coal. And I would say, I don't even want to hear it. Okay, go away. Today, nobody talks about it. You know, so I am just so happy that we stuck to it. And it did mean less business initially. It did mean lower profits, lower returns on investment, but that's it.
That's a beautiful example of your gut saying this is the right thing to do. So emotions working with it, but having to convince others to make the decision. Anu, did you want to add anything?
Yeah. Let me say a little bit about governance in our company. Thermax was always known as reasonably ethical, but in India, there's a lot of corruption, let's face it. And to do business, sometimes you do compromise, especially with the government, but even with private sector. And when I took over, we decided that we will not do any business which is not clean. Mayor talked of green, I'm talking of clean. And that also meant letting go some of the businesses. But as we went along, we became very strict. And if anyone did not follow, even if it was a senior manager, he or she would have to leave the company. We sent the message that we really mean what we are saying. I think another thing which is not often talked about as governance, but safety record of a company. We didn't have a very good safety record, but we decided we will value everyone's life, whether they're regular employees or our contract employees. And we decided to give safety topmost priority. It was reviewed by the board, and our safety today is very good, one of the very good ones in India. So that was another thing. As I said earlier, we have separated ownership from management, and we have a truly independent board. I don't think a single board member would like to please the family and say things what we want to hear. We have really, really independent members who do what's good for the company and all the stakeholders. So I'm proud of our governance.
And for good reason. Thank
Yeah.
you. Now, Meher, talking about, Anu had mentioned earlier, talking about board and this decision to separate ownership and management. As you'd said, you were an executive in the company, you had that experience. How was that transition for you? What helped, what hindered? Can you speak about that, please?
Sure. First of all, I was both Feroz and I were very upset with my mom for giving us that option. I mean, why us? Why can't we as family be not part of that option? But she said, no, everybody has to be on the board. Well, the other people didn't even have the option. So in some ways, we were lucky to have it. But I think we decided that we will continue on the board. And after being an executive for 10 years, it was really difficult to really move into a non-executive role. You know, it's very easy to just add a non in front of executive, but practicing it, experiencing it was very tough. For example, I was used to doing things. I was used to picking up the phone, speaking to anyone in the organization and getting something done. I had to stop all that. Non-executive means that you have your MD and CEO, who is the executive, who is in charge of the organization. And it is for him to decide what happens on a day-to-day basis. And so I had to do everything through my MD and CEO. If I wanted to speak to someone down the line, it would unnecessarily cause problems in terms of, you know, political things being played in the organization. And I didn't ever want anything that was going against the organization. And so I would have to be very, very disciplined. And it's not always easy to do that. And so I empowered my MD and said to him that if I'm crossing the line, just pick up the phone and give me a rap on my knuckles, you know, so that I know that I'm not doing the right thing. And even today, it's been how many years now, since 2000 to now, which is 12 years, I still make mistakes. And but luckily, I think we've established a relationship where the MD can tell me that what you're doing is not helpful for the organization. And then I immediately change. Another thing is that I had to move to a much more strategic role rather than an operational day-to-day role. I had to start influencing rather than doing. So my power of influencing had to improve. I had a coach to train me and to train my MD at that time when I took over, just to help us understand what our roles would be in the organization. And I have to say that having a coach was, I think, a very, very helpful decision that we took early on.
Thank you. That is, we don't talk very much about governance in business school education. I know we are beginning to do that at our school, introduce students the idea of what does it mean to govern. But that is such a subtle yet important transition of mindset that has to be made. And I know you've had managing directors or MDs who worked with you for a long time. Has that been helpful for you as you joined into the board and transitioned into the non-executive role, Meher?
Yeah, I think it's been extremely helpful. I've had 2 MDs that I worked with, both retired. After the last one retired about 2 years ago, we actually took a conscious decision that we would go outside and get a new CEO and MD. And the reason for that was because, with the entire climate change and energy transition, Thermax has to change course. We've changed course already. As I said, we've moved from 40% to 70%, but there is still a lot of room. And we just felt that someone coming externally would give it that impetus. The second thing is that as a culture, I think we want to be a little more performance oriented. As Anu said, earlier on, we only asked people to leave because of integrity. And of course, we changed over time. But I think as the organization does well, again, you tend to lax a bit. And so we wanted to move into a far more performance-oriented organization. And we felt that if that culture of performance management has to come in, it's difficult to do it with someone internal. So this time we went out and we've selected a very, very fine gentleman by the name of Ashish Bhandari, who joined us 2 years ago. And so we're very happy.
This time around, you're an experienced board member, and hopefully that transition has worked out well. Ram, may I bring you in the conversation, please? And non-family professionals, as Mayor just described, have played a significant role and continue to play a significant role in Thermax. Is that typical of Indian family firms?
Yes, it is changing. I mean, if I connect with what Meher said, that transition is not easy at all, especially if you have been driving the company, leading the company. That let go is not easy. I mean, I've done a lot of work on professionalization of family business in the Indian context, and I found that it's more like a doubles game, professionalization, because one is that ownership. If you're a responsible owner, you have to, as part of the organizational transformation, bringing objective decision making, performance orientation, system structure, process, all those things are there, which are the essence of professionalization. But that's only process part of it. I believe professionalism is a value, like the values that Anu and Meher underlined. And those values have helped Thermax to sustain themselves, stand up to the challenges, and now transforming. So professionalization is a process that is required. What you need is people with professionalism as a value. And responsible ownership does not mean that the owner goes and sits in the company and runs it. Responsible ownership means that you are custodian of the wealth of the family, of the business, and then pass it over, protect it, preserve it, protect it, grow it, and pass it over to the next generation. And that's what responsible ownership means. And therefore, professionalization is a must. And professionals can come from within the family or from outside. And very often in the family business context, I've heard people talking about family and professionals. To me, it's wrong. It's family professional and non-family professionals. And that is what is required. And I mean, we have been doing a lot of work in terms of propagating this message, giving them the confidence to family business leaders that let go is possible, it has to happen, and you are not there eternally, so you have to sustain the organization. And so a lot of training is required, and Meher mentioned about the benefit of having coaching for implementing professionalization. So there are quite a few companies, quite a few organizations changing, and there is an increasing tendency, because it's driven by the competition. And Thermax also, Meher also mentioned about the need for bringing somebody from outside to build a lot more of the performance orientation. So that is part of professionalization. So there is increasing competition, competitiveness requirement, and family businesses, especially in the past 20, 30 years, I've seen there is a huge change in their approach. They're all willing to and learning to work with family professionals as well as non-family professionals.
Thank you.
PramoDITA, can I just
Yes.
add one thing in terms
Please do.
of, I just want to add to what Ram mentioned. I think one of the biggest values that a family has to have when having a non-family professional running the organization is trust.
True.
And unless you trust the person who's at the helm, who you brought at the helm of the organization, you will always read between the lines. You will always doubt everything that the person says. And that is a sure way to destroy the organization. So I think trust and giving him that freedom, that empowerment, because you've chosen him because you think he's the best person to drive your organization, in which you have all your wealth. So if you don't trust someone, don't bring that person in.
I just
And
want
do it
to
carefully.
add, sorry,
Do it very
yeah,
carefully.
and also don't get threatened by his success.
Mm.
In India, family seems to be in the media, in everything family. But a good CEO may get more, recognition publicly. And that, if you start feeling threatened, that's not a healthy thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask, Anu, is when you took over, how did you figure out who you can trust?
I come from HR background and I know my people extremely well. And as a person, I trust people. Till someone proves otherwise, I trust. So I go with the premise, everyone is trustworthy. And my people liked me very much. They wanted me to succeed. So, and I didn't mind saying, I don't know, and show my vulnerability. Constantly, I would say, I don't understand this, please explain. And they were very happy to explain and see that I succeed. So trust has never been a problem.
Including CRI.
Yeah, people have asked me that as a woman, have you seen men not liking you, not helping you? I said, my experience is just the opposite. In our business association, CII, where I was very active, I saw the members trying their best to help me in whatever the way they can. So I found a lot of support from, of course, my daughter and my husband, her husband, from internal the company and from outside.
Excellent. Anu, could you continue and share a little bit about your involvement in social causes?
Sure. Before I do that, Ram, I just want to add to your definition of CSR. To me, 2% is compulsory and you have to write a check. So that's not great. But for me, CSR means you take responsibility to speak out, not all the time, but when there is something going very wrong in the country. If there is something which really destroys the constitution of our country, if you have the guts to speak. So I think government will not listen to NGOs or individuals, but corporate, especially business associates, together show their concern, they're likely to be heard. So I feel, I also feel that the difference I see that CSR is from the company and it's compulsory, philanthropy is from individuals. So we as a family, what we give is our philanthropy. And we started by giving 30% of the dividends we get from Thermax every year. And from April, we have decided to bring it up to 50%. My son-in-law has been very helpful. He said that we should not take my grandchildren for granted, but involve them. So one day he sat down and we explained to them what we are doing, which they were making fun of it because Mayor and I would be constantly talking of our NGOs and they would get so fed up. And sometimes my grandson would say, Annu, stop telling me about your social work. I'll give that damn 30%, you know. So now every quarter we sit down and tell them this is the amount, this is where we want to give. My children are very keen on giving it to animal causes, which is difficult for me to, my grandchildren. My son-in-law wants to give it for health. So how to manage different people's interests and respect them. I have to learn that. Really, I have to learn because I'm so used to doing things the way I like in this area. So recently, just a week ago, we had a call with a wonderful NGO that's helping potential politicians to be ethical and keep to the constitution. And they need money. And my entire family was on that Zoom call. My granddaughter, my grandson, my son-in-law asking questions, and not just Mayor and me decided. So it's a very healthy process which we've started. Yeah. And I think it's no use doing any philanthropy and lose the relationship within the family. That would be a terrible thing.
Thank you. Thank you. It's absolutely wonderful that the fourth generation is now getting engaged through philanthropy and also in the business operations for now. 10 to 20 years from now, Anu and Meher, what do you aspire for Thermax, for your own family?
Sorry. Mayor will perhaps talk about the business side, but I have been out of business for over 20 years. And my dream is I have faith in my family, that's Mayor and Feroz, in my board, in my CEO, in my management, to go into areas which will be good for the country and for the world. But whatever we do not compromise our values. That to me is a very, very important thing. If we can stay with our values and not compromise, I will be very happy when I'm up there also.
So for me, of course, I completely agree in terms of the values. I truly believe that a responsible business is a successful business. And so I would love Thermax to really look at it in a very wholesome fashion. Business as a very, almost as we talked about E, we talked about S, we talked about G, profit, purpose, stakeholders. If I can just narrate a small thing that we've started PramoDITA right now on the S side. 2 years ago when this whole COVID situation happened and we had a sudden lockdown in India, there were millions and millions of informal migrant laborers that had no work, no income, no food. And suddenly all the public transport had closed down overnight. So they started walking home, miles and miles, hundreds and thousands of miles. So many people died on the way. So many people died of starvation. And it was a horrible sight, something that the world hasn't seen. And Anu and I were looking at it on television. And I remember Anu saying, we have to do something about this. And so we rang up somebody who runs an NGO, and they brought in other NGOs who have really done work on the ground. And we decided to start something called the Social Compact. And today there are, I think, probably 10, 15 other companies also joined in, other individuals joined in. And basically, we want to bring equity and dignity to the informal labor. And we feel that as business, let us try and do it in our own circle of influence, because we employ so many people informally through our contractors, our vendors employ so many people, our sites employ so many people. So why don't we, each of us who are running our business, become a fulcrum of change or an anchor for change? And so this is what I love about being in business. It's not just the top line and the bottom line. It's much, much beyond. And I really hope Thermax always remains that way.
I would love to have Thermax featured again in our next book, probably on the social dimension. As in the last 2 minutes, I do want to go to Ram and ask, as an educator, what are your hopes for Indian family businesses?
Indian family businesses have been changing, have been transforming over the past, I would say, since the 90s, when we had the liberalization effected and a lot more competitiveness was brought in. So especially after 2000, we find that there is a new energy, new recognition. Earlier, family businesses were considered as orthodox, bad, correct, and all the bad words were adjectives of describing a family business. No longer. Family businesses are respected. Family businesses are champions of change. Champions of change, not only in terms of changing the structure of the economy. If you look at the way the economy has been growing, and our research has shown that most of these changes have been effected with the active participation or leadership of family-controlled businesses, including organizations such as the Thermax. And you find a new energy in terms of professionalizing, and with the recognition that professionalism and professionalization are important. And also there is growing recognition of the need to have governance, high quality governance, if you want to become more accepted by all the stakeholders. For the success of an organization, there is greater recognition. So as educator, what we are doing is to propagate the message of professionalism, professionalization, and increased governance. These are all inevitable things. These are all must for all organizations. And at the Family Business Center, the Thomas Mitani Center for Family Enterprise, this is our objective. This is what we try to do through a variety of our activities. So I have huge hope, and I believe in family business. I'm passionate about it. And I'm sure that family businesses will continue to be the change agents of sustainability, professionalization, governance, or everything in the Indian context.
Thank you very much, Ram. On that message of hope, I want to thank our panelists, Ram, Anu, and Meher, for joining. We do have some additional questions, which I will separately ask you in an email and then respond to the students who are asking or to the colleagues who are asking. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining. Our next forum, can we have the panelist on, please? Thank you. Bye for
Thank you.
now. Our next forum is on March 24th, a father and daughter team from Grand Rapids, Michigan. They are also an engineering company, so please choose to, hope you will join March 24th. Thank you again, Anu, Meher, Ram. We'll hope to see you very soon again.